Hey everybody. Okay, real quick before we get this video started, I want to announce again the winner for the Metatron activation that we recently gave away. This is from a very generous donor who provided enough money to purchase 4 different sessions. So we gave away a Lightworker session and a Metatron, Lightworker activation and a Metatron activation. The Lightworker activation winner reached out to us, but we haven't heard from the Metatron activation winner. This is Darlene Kissler 768. So Darlene, if you are out there, please contact us at orangelighthenergy.com. Use the request a session button and we will get you set up and scheduled so that you can enjoy your Metatron activation. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Please enjoy the video. Hey everybody, my name is Jennifer and this is Metatron speaking. I'm going to be talking to you today about Ho'oponopono. So some of you have heard of this before and you probably use it, and others of you may not have heard about this. I wanted to make a video on it, feeling really pulled by Metatron to do this. It's a great tool. So what Ho'oponopono is, this is originally a Hawaiian practice that families and communities there would use to like resolve conflicts. And eventually it kind of got out into the broader world through different individuals. And it's something I'm glad it got out into the broader world because it is really useful for all of us. So Ho'oponopono, it is comprised of 4 different, very simple, basic phrases. And you might hear them in different order, and that's not important one way or the other. And the 4 phrases are, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. So those are the 4 phrases that make up this practice of Ho'oponopono. And I want to tell you just a little bit about how my guides have been having me use it in case it helps you at all. So when I first when I first found out about Ho'oponopono, um, and there's a couple different ways you can do it. There are other YouTube videos that you can find out there that are just somebody repeating those phrases over and over and over again for like, I don't know, 30 minutes or an hour, whatever the case is. So that's always an option. Um, the other option is saying it yourself, which I think honestly both ways are powerful. So you can just kind of feel into what feels right for you at any given moment. When I have done Ho'oponopono, the one of the most powerful ways I've done it is actually going through my own personal past and thinking about everyone who's been really close to me, for since I've been young, and going through and saying these words to them several times over and over again until it feels right, until it feels like I've said what I've needed to say to them. And so, for example, I would, say this to my mother, say this to my father, say this to my sister, say this to my cousin, say this to my ex-boyfriend or my ex-husband, or say this to my children. Um, any close friends, anyone who's had a really close relationship with you. Um, there's obviously we all make mistakes. We are all less than perfect, and we all always will be less than perfect and making mistakes. And so there's always an appropriate time for us to acknowledge our faults, take ownership and responsibility for that. Um, and these phrases seem so simple, but there's so much power in acknowledging that you've hurt someone else, that you're sorry for it. There's so much power in saying, I love you, and putting that love energy out into the world for them. And then thank you. That's the power of gratitude and perspective. And realizing that even if you're saying these phrases to someone, let's say you're saying it to your father, and maybe you don't have a very good relationship with your father because he's done lots of things that were very harmful for you. Maybe he wasn't even around in your life. But you, if you choose to think of him for a moment and to direct these phrases towards him, it is a very healing process. Even if you feel like, wow, like I was a little kid, like he took off when I was little, there was nothing I could have done wrong to him. Why would I need to apologize to him? You don't realize that there are other versions of yourself who are likely incarnated with other versions of him, and that a lot of times the people in our life that are kind of like committing crimes against us or giving us those difficult lessons, a lot of times we've had past lifetimes where it was flipped. And it's not necessarily that this is like, oh, it's karmic, you abandoned them, so now they're abandoning you. It's not quite that cut and dry. It's more like we incarnate again and again with the souls that we love, and we're all here to learn really difficult lessons. And in order to do that, we have to be in situations that cause adversity and challenge. And so, to help that other soul that you love, you may have been their abuser or you may have been somebody who abandoned them. And now in this lifetime, it's flipped, right? To give you an opportunity to learn something else. Um, anyways, so when you're using this Ho'oponopono, I want you to think big scale. Don't get caught up in the, well, I don't feel like I did anything wrong. If you get caught up in that, that's really like 3D energy. And that's a space of not taking ownership for kind of the full scope of your soul, if that makes any sense. Um, so being able to do this Ho'oponopono effectively means you have to be willing to be vulnerable and take accountability and recognize that you're not perfect and recognize that even in the most difficult and adverse of situations, there was a benefit. There was a learning. There was something about it that was helpful for you. And if it's something that's a really fresh situation that just happened, then it may not feel like that. If this is like a divorce you're currently going through, you may not feel like saying thank you to your ex-partner who is leaving you. Um, but in time, as you step away from it, it will become more clear that your time with them, however difficult or however wonderful, there were lessons in it. It was there to teach you something. And so when you're saying thank you, sometimes it's thank you for this opportunity to learn more about myself. Thank you for this opportunity for me to set boundaries or for me to see the strength that I have or for me to see what my value actually is. So I have used Ho'oponopono directly thinking of different individuals from my life. You can do Ho'oponopono very generally. You don't have to think about anyone in particular. That is equally effective. You can send it out to humanity, to the world. You can send it to, anything. If you're like, I want to send this to a specific country, you could do that. And the power of Ho'oponopono is that it's healing all these pains and all these wounds and all this suffering and all this lack of acknowledgement and lack of gratitude has caused so much struggle in the world, so much um, resistance in the world. And so it's very easy to de escalate those feelings in others if we were just to like sit down with a human being and tell them these things. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. How can anybody argue with that? Those really, those hit a lot of needs that humans have on an emotional level. Um, I was actually surprised practicing Ho'oponopono how powerful it was for me. I found myself crying, 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 and I'm not even sure why. And I don't know if it matters that I understand why, but there was a lot of release, and it helps us to heal. So my guides have kind of put a challenge forward for everyone if you are interested. And the challenge is to use Ho'oponopono for 10 minutes every day. The time of day that it's easiest for me to use it is actually like when I lay down to go to bed. I'll just start saying it. And sometimes it brings up really intense emotions, and sometimes I just kind of say it and then I just end up falling asleep, and that's fine too. But I would encourage you and challenge you to incorporate this practice into your life in any way that it feels right, because it is a really powerful way to help you process emotions. And even if you're doing it in a general sense, let's say you don't want to do it in a personal sense, you're like, you know what, I'm just going to send it out to the world. You will heal the world by doing it, even if you don't feel it, even if you don't see it. Putting that kind of energy, putting out the frequency and the vibration of forgiveness and gratitude and acknowledgement of wrongs, really, really powerful stuff. And it's the kind of energy that we want to bring more of to this planet in any way possible. So, okay, this is all that I have for you today. Let me know if you're going to be doing this challenge. I'm curious. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.